The weather these days suits the mood at National Steel Car. One of Hamilton's biggest employers is in a big slump. Giovanni Defan used to come here every day, proud to be a steel worker.
I'm a welder. Oh, I love using my hands. And to me, welding is not so much about letting it be there. It's just like, it talks to you.
Welding, not just a job to him, but an art, which meant it hurt bad, when he got laid off 4 years ago. Now, Giovanni, along with hundreds of other laid-off steelworkers, makes his daily trek here, the employment center, to scan the job board, hunting, searching, without much luck.
I find to make a living in welding, you basically have to knock your head all over the place because the contracts, the jobs come far and few in between.
He's landed a few odd jobs in carpentry as a mechanic, but his passion is welding, and there's just nothing steady out there for a 47-year-old.
Well, how am I going to feed my kids? What's going to happen now?
Not easy after once earning $37 an hour, but Giovanni isn't alone. There are more and more blue-collar men in Canada who are unemployed and struggling to adapt. It's an unemployment problem that was unimaginable a few generations ago, when the working world was a man's world, whether they were educated or not. But jobs in traditionally male-dominated industries, mining, oil and gas, fishing, have been on a downward slide for quite a while. In Canada, in the past 4 years alone, nearly 70,000 jobs have been lost in manufacturing and agriculture combined. Why? Brawn is getting trumped by technology.
It takes one person to run a robot. You know, it doesn't take 2 or 3 people. I mean, in some cases where we had to line up sheets, panels for a train, it will take up to 10 people. Now, you slap one robot on that line, it only takes one person to make sure that the robot is doing the work right.
Is it frustrating to get replaced by a robot?
Oh, for sure. It can't weld better than me. It can't. Good morning. I left you a message.
Giovanni finds himself stuck at home a lot.
See if it's possible that we could meet up. The 23rd? Oh, yeah, I could, definitely.
Needing help, but uneasy with handouts. Now, a guy so good at fusing metal struggles to keep his family together. He has 2 daughters and a social assistance check, barely enough to put food on the table.
You start to lose your self-worth. For one, I'm getting older, you know, and companies are not looking for people my age. You're really starting to be hungry?
Yeah, I'm hungry. Not me.
What's really going on? Is this really a trade that I should stick with, you know, because I got into it late?
He's not the only man asking that question.
I see more women coming to post-secondary education.
This economics expert says the pool of unemployed tradesmen with non-transferable skills is growing.
It's getting tougher for certain males, and it's getting tougher because their jobs are disappearing, and a lot of them are good jobs, like in the auto industry and in manufacturing plants. And to some extent, it isn't as tough for women.
That may be tough to swallow in a world where men still call the shots, but consider this. Nearly 200,000 jobs were created within the healthcare and social service industries over the past 4 years. Yet in 2016 in Canada, only 10% of registered nurses were men and 12% of healthcare aides. Bottom line, the service sector is the fastest growing part of Canada's economy, and it's mostly women filling those jobs in service and caring professions, often more apt to be patient, empathetic, and nurturing, and versatile enough to learn new skills.
Our labor market is relying on education, and we don't do a lot of training on skills development. So who has, on average, more education? Women. If you look around a university like Ryerson, particularly in the business area and in a number of other areas, there's probably a majority of the students are women.
It's not only Ryerson. On college and university campuses across Canada, there's been a dramatic reversal of the gender balance. Back in 1970, 39% of students were women. Fast forward to 2010, and 57% of students are women. Attaining higher education isn't necessarily translating into higher earnings for women. The income gap remains real in Canada. On average, women earn 72 cents for every dollar a man makes doing the same type of work. But it is women getting better grades, more degrees, becoming doctors and lawyers and CEOs. Most of all, it's women better prepared to adapt to a changing workforce, not men.
I think they're going to have to adjust their expectations, and if you go down the ladder and look at schooling, I think in high schools, students who are coming out are going to really have to be aware of the fact that there aren't going to be good jobs for you for your entire work career if all you've got is a high school education and not even a high school completion.
But high schools in Canada have a boy crisis of their own.
What will affect the look of the image is the aperture and the shutter. So,
over 20 plus years of teaching, John Mason has watched girls steadily rise to the top, boys descend to the bottom.
We have a gap now between boys and girls in their educational attainment, and that gap is growing. You could say, overall boys' education attainment level has been going down, and that's not a direction that's good for them. It's not a direction that's good for society. I can tell you're going easy on me. Oh, get in there.
This is how he started to try and motivate his disengaged and underperforming male students. Boys Club, a lunchtime program just for boys, to let off some steam. At first, his teaching colleagues razzed him. Not anymore. Not when boys make up 70% of high school dropouts.
Just generally, the girls will participate in class more, they'll put up their hand more, they comment more. It seems that girls just automatically or intuitively are aware of the benefits of education and they appreciate what they're getting. And the boys will kind of sit back and not participate as much, partly because the girls are doing all the work. They're stepping up, they're getting involved. And we need now to light a fire under these boys and motivate them. Who can tell me what?
None of this is news to boys who see girls outperforming them in the classroom every day.
Like usually when you see in a class, it's usually the guys who are like fooling around or like getting off topic and like hating each other and stuff. Guys like have a, I guess, shorter attention span.
Why does that happen?
I don't know. I guess it's where we were wired or something.
We're an interesting species.
Yeah.
Which is why, to them, Boys Club is more than fun and games.
I think playing sports, it energizes you to go into your next classes. I think more alert in class.
If you had a really good game against your friends and you destroyed them, you go into class happy, you're excited to go to class, So you feel good about the rest of the day.
After I play sports in Boys Club, I burn a lot of energy, so I'm more calm when I go to class, and I'm ready to focus, and my mind's set on the goals for the day.
If we have a large segment of society that's not being productive, and they're doing things that we would classify as very bad behaviors, that later on in life, we need to address that. And right now, it's largely boys.
Because if schools only punish boys with boy problems,
relationships and employment have a connection.
Eventually, they grow into men with men problems.
Accessing these services and working with other men with these situations, it's literally turned my life around. And
this men's center encourages men to tackle their problems in a very un-guy-like way by talking about it.
I lost my ability to work because of a workplace injury.
Some here talk about lost jobs and what comes with that, losing their masculine identity.
When men suffer through unemployment or underemployment, it can affect their sense of identity, because men are still often identified with their professional life, with their identity as breadwinners. That can bring on issues of depression, that can have a real serious effect on their mental health, and that in turn can lead to the erosion of their family situation.
What is my aim? What is my goal now? And that has a direct impact on your workplace.
This men's group may be small, but it signals a dramatic cultural shift. Men taking on new roles in the family, dealing with mental health instead of ignoring it, and men who need to start to consider so-called pink-collar jobs.
I've been a part of supporting to get women to go into the engineering and the science and the technology professions, and we're still not nearly done with that job, but we've done virtually nothing to attract men into professions that have tended to be more dominated by women now. I think it's all part of the same kind of gender equality exercise.
Back in Hamilton, it's not gender equity eating away at Giovanni. He just wants a job.
I have kids to feed. I have kids to take care of, to mind, okay? And it's just frustrated. You know, I'm not picky about the jobs per se. I just want to see a job come and stay.
But it may mean hanging up the blowtorch. Because if men keep hanging on to manly work identities, guess who will be getting called the weaker sex? Duncan McHugh, CBC News, Hamilton.